I think that Brock Lesnar should just count his lucky stars. He has been given opportunities that did he deserve? Nope. Count your lucky stars. Me personally, outside looking in, better stay with your professional wrestling. It'll be a lot easier on your body.
How do you think you would have done against Lesnar if you both were in your primes in an MMA fight?
Lesnar, yeah, listen, it's not about bragging, it's not about being better than somebody, but it's about skill sets. There's no question in my mind that the times that when I was in my prime, that I was the most well-rounded fighter out there, or in the world. I was the one that knew how to kickbox. I did kickboxing and Muay Thai. I competed in events in Japan. And I was a submission specialist going into the UFC for the very first time. So I was the most well-rounded fighter in there. And being able to fight a guy like Brock Lesnar, who is a wrestler, who has very limited skills in striking, in my prime, and him in his prime, he doesn't have a chance because it's the same thing as Severn. How can you beat me? You can't beat me. If I'm in my prime and I have all those skill sets in my prime, and in his prime, he was very limited on his skill sets, how can you beat me?
Yeah, you know, I think he's a tremendous athlete. There's no question of his athletic ability, but he is the most fortunate man to work to ever wrestle for the WWF, 3 WFs, 2 WFs, and the WWE ever, because he has Paul Heyman to do his promos for him. I have seen interviews of Lesnar just standing there and not say a word because my close friend, my good buddy Paul Heyman, one of the best mouthpieces ever in pro wrestling, would cut the promo for Lesnar. So Lesnar, being a great athlete, no doubt about it. Didn't have to worry about cutting a promo, which if you're on your own and can't cut a promo, look at these guys, they get these scripts handed to them, can't cut a promo.
How would I do against Brock Lesnar? Now come on, people. Brock, you know, it would be submission. Come on. I'm a wrestler, I can defend the takedown. He's a bigger man, so I'd be looking for chokes, rear naked chokes, guillotines. I don't know. I'm willing to challenge my skills versus his. He outweighs me by a few pounds.
Now, when will we see Bobby Lashley face Brock Lesnar? Is that going to happen? Because I think everyone wants to see this.
Yeah, it's not on me. It's on him. Right now.
Why don't you tell him right now? Hey, Brock, tell him.
I'm not the type to call people.
Brock.
I have mad respect for Brock, and I have mad respect for everybody in the fight business and in the wrestling business. But I think it's just one of those things that need to be done. You know, there's big matchups all the way across the board. They looked at Brock fighting John Jones. That was one thing that was talked about. Everybody was like, "Oh, that's awesome." Floyd Mayweather fighting Conor. Oh, these are different matchups that people want to see. And I think right now people are starting to move more into that entertainment aspect of wanting to see those different contests and different matchups. And Brock and myself, whether it's in professional wrestling or whether it's in a fight, I think it needs to be done.
So you're saying that the onus is on him to make it happen?
Him or Paul Heyman.
How would you do against him in a mixed martial arts fight? How would you do?
Until the fight happens, no one knows. I think I would do well. I think our styles are very similar, and I think that there's going to be tit for tat in a lot of ways.
But let's be honest. I mean, what guy in UFC right now would you want to see in WWE that has that appeal?
Me personally, nobody. So.
Exactly. There's really nobody. There's not another Brock Lesnar. There's not another Ronda Rousey. And until there'll be one, but that really is the downfall for UFC, is that they'll get somebody that they've built that finally is a draw, and then they get bopped and get cut off, and Chuck Liddell, awesome. What happened? Started losing. What happened as a draw? Gone. And it just goes down the list. I mean, they burn through them so fast. It's tough because the guys, they fight more frequently than boxers do. So they have more of a likelihood of, losing those key matches and then killing that attraction, killing that heat. And once you kill that heat, they've got to be on a certain level to be able to carry that over and cross over into WWE, and vice versa. And I don't think it's going to stop. I think it's going to get rarer that you're going to see it.
What do you think of Brock Lesnar's current situation in WWE?
I don't know Brock. I never met him, but he's one hell of a negotiator to get the deal he has. I mean, he took Vince McMahon and the WWE. I mean, he went to Fort Knox and got this money. Serious big time dope. From what I understand, he has a great deal that every wrestler, every performer would love to have. A minimum amount of dates per year, get paid really well for it, merchandising checks. You couldn't ask for a better deal. And what I hope now is he set the standards for other guys.
What's going on with Brock Lesnar, speaking of UFC?
He failed test for clomiphene.
Is it official that he failed it now?
Yes, he failed 2 tests actually. Failed one on June 28th and one on July the 9th, which was the day of his fight. So he's probably going to look at a 2-year suspension from MMA, but he'll still do WWE. But I think his MMA may be over, which is too bad because he brought a lot of excitement to MMA. He wasn't the greatest technical fighter, but he was a strong wrestler, and he had a strong name value, and people tuned in to see him.
And WWE is not going to be suspending him. That's official. So it's different for the part-time performers, the testing policy?
I guess so. Different for Brock Lesnar.
I guess probably The Rock as well.
The Rock as well, I would say probably, yeah. I never imagined, that when Rock shows up, that they go, by the way, you're being tested. I never even thought of that for a second that was possible. I mean, it's just.
So does that mean probably Vince McMahon and Triple H are probably under?
Well, Vince, I know. Vince himself said it. When Vince testified before Congress, they go like, he was a performer. He go, do you get tested? And he was the thing, I'm 62 years old or whatever he was at the time. He goes, it's not, So like that, it's like, no. And I don't, Triple H, I don't believe that he's tested either. Yeah.
And just to go back a bit to Lesnar, wasn't he arrested for something to do with steroids in the early 2000s or human?
There was an arrest when he was in OVW, and the charges were dropped because when they analyzed the substance, it wasn't steroids. They thought it was steroids. I don't know why they were there investigating, but they found something in his apartment or wherever. He did get arrested. They tested it, and whatever it was. I mean, I've heard it was growth hormone. And I've heard it was just like a liquid supplement. And the police never said what it was, but because it was not anything illegal, whatever he had was not illegal.
Growth hormone isn't illegal, I guess?
I thought it was, but whatever it was, It was dropped. So that's what happened, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know how you get caught for steroid use, but I guess he did. I mean, you have to really guess. You look at him, you could smoke a cigarette in the rain with his forehead and sagittal crest. It's so big from drug use. But you know what? I have a little thing saying that I've always said to myself, because I've always been 100% natural, and that is people have to take drugs to be like me. I mean, I'd be full of myself, but I don't see anybody else benching over 600 pounds, running marathon. I've done just about all the physical things you could do. And so I've been blessed with that. So when these guys get caught, it's like, what do you say? Told you so, or you're cheating, and it's fairly obvious to everybody. So Brock, they're gonna test you, and you're gonna get found out. I think a lot of people I've noticed in my life in this business is that when they take steroids, it fucks with their head, because they all of a sudden think they're tough guys on top of their phony muscles and everything else. So him thinking he's tough and he's got to do what he's got to do might not work out for him without the steroids.
Speaking of doping, Brock Lesnar was recently caught of failing a drug test for his UFC fight.
Just recently?
The
one
last,
he just
Oh,
won?
you didn't hear about that?
No.
Yeah, two of his tests were flagged.
Well, that's pretty disappointing to me, considering he came through the wrestling route. And I'll tell you, you know what that tells me? His mind wasn't developed as well as it should. He took it for his mind to get stronger. I did not know. I just heard he won today. And now I heard he got caught doping. Well, that's a dope.
Did you ever coach against him?
Yeah, I've coached against him. You know, I'm trying to think. Maybe I just retired, so I was like thinking I was the coach yet.
You were maybe assistant or watching?
I'm not even sure. I think I might have just been on the sideline. But he beat an Iowa guy in the national finals, and I was not the coach at that time. But I had coached that wrestler earlier in his career. And it was a tough match.
Was your dad there for that match they had before taping one night in WWE? Like they had apparently a shoot match.
Yes, my dad was there. Of course, at the time, that was when my dad was Vince McMahon's right-hand man.
Yeah.
So my dad was everywhere. I mean, my dad was running all the European shows. My dad was pretty much the man next to Vince. So I remember my dad telling me this story. He goes, Brock and Angle have been going at it for a little bit, just saying, oh, who's better? And of course, you know, Kurt's like, you know, I'm Olympic gold medal. I mean, you're an NCAA champ, but I'm a gold medalist. You know, there's two different. Brock's, of course, like, you know, I'll take you. And then finally, I guess Kurt had enough of it. So Kurt's like, all right, let's go. So they went into the wrestling ring and did a shoot, like not a wrestling match, like a real amateur wrestling match. And then I remember my dad saying that he got yelled at. They were like, Jerry, go get your boys. They're out there killing themselves before they hurt. So Jerry, so my dad had to run out there and break them up, because if they hurt each other, those are the $1 million guys for the company. And they're out there not doing what they're, you know, supposed to be doing. Right. So, but my dad said it was pretty tense. But my dad said Kurt kind of got the best of him.
What are your thoughts on him and Brock Lesnar now doing pretty well for themselves?
Oh, I love Brock Lesnar as a person. He's awesome. I love his wrestling style. I love that realistic, you know, takedown, make people question for a second. There's people, he got me with the Cena, when he cracked open Cena with the elbows. Yeah. I'm like, is this off script or whatever you want to say? And that means he got me. If you question it for a second, they got you, you know?
Yeah. What did you think of the Randy Orton thing?
I actually just saw like pictures the next day on Twitter. It's pretty, yeah. I haven't talked to Randy yet about it actually. We used to ride together, so we talked.
For Brock, you know, to me, because of the way the sport's structured, some athletes would have never survived in a really competitive environment. You know, would Brock Lesnar have made it to the top of the UFC rankings if the UFC actually had real rankings, if the sport was free and open to every athlete to compete? I don't know about that.
Was Brock Lesnar in OVW around that time too?
Yes, he was. Him and Shelton were the Minnesota stretch crew.
Yeah.
Because they were both collegiate guys from Minnesota. And I worked with him one time, and I always tell the story. He did me a belly to back suplex, which I've taken before, but I've never had somebody actually just pick me up, you know, literally, and like hold me. It felt like a roller coaster, you know, when you're at the top going click, 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 click. When he hooked me and went up, it was like, it felt slow motion, like that's how strong he was. It was like click, 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 and then like I paused right there when he had me up. I'm like, oh God, I think I'm about to break my neck or my back. And it was a perfect bump, because I mean, he laid me down flat. But I never had been picked up like that, being a big guy. Yeah. That's just, you know, he's a freak like Cena in his own way, but even bigger and more genetically gifted, and just, you know, he's a monster, you know.
How was he outside the ring?
I wasn't as close with him because he was way ahead of me, you know.
Right.
He was head of the ring crew at that time. He was kind of like alpha male of OVW, you know. But no, he was never rude or mean to me. He was more like outdoorsman, hunting guy and stuff, which I'm from the city, so I'm not a big hunter. I mean, I'm an animal lover. I got cats and dogs, so. But I mean, I didn't have any heat or anything with him. He was just, you know, he was getting ready. I mean, everybody knew he was going to be a big impact in WWE, you know, because he had all the tools, you know, the skill set, you know, college wrestler and that background and that look, you know, so yeah.
Brock, you got to hand it to him. You know, he got that tattoo of the dagger because he felt like the WWE was holding him hostage, like he was kind of a prisoner, and then he broke off and, you know, came to UFC, won the title. And then now he went back on his own terms, and man, he's got it made. Like his schedule, he's just on the big events and shit, and he's the champion, right?
And he just has a new contract where it's like 600,000 something for every match he has.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then he gets to go to WWE, where he probably isn't under the scrutiny of USADA, and work on his strength, and then, you know, get off, then come back in the UFC.
You know, I was just looking at him. He's done, I think, 4 fights over $1 million buys.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can still generate that kind of, you know, those kind of numbers, then he's gonna get to do what he wants to do.
I think that Brock Lesnar returning to US, Brock Lesnar at this point can do no wrong. I think, you know, for him, whatever he does, whether he goes back to WWE and does that, and he's great at it, and he goes back to the UFC, he's got a name. And he's got a track record where he can do a lot of stuff. As long as he stays off controversy for the next fight, I think that would be ideal. But you know what? I'd watch the fight no matter what. I'd definitely watch him again.
Well, it was every night before Mariah went to bed, we'd call her and we'd say, "How's your day?" And it was always really good conversation. And Mariah always wanted to talk to her mom before she went to bed. And I just remember that it just seemed like it was getting harder and harder to get in touch with her. And then there was days that she didn't even answer her phone. It would just go to voicemail. And I was thinking, why? Where's my wife, you know? I know the wrestling matches are over. They got to be either driving to the next town or in a hotel room. And there was no phone call back. There was nothing, you know? So I remember leaving a very nasty message. Like, you know, I can't believe you don't call us back. You know, this is rude. Well, I can't remember what I said. But anyways, I started feeling bad for saying that, you know, and I go, you know what, and I knew her access code to her phone like she knew mine. We're a married couple, you know. So I called back the phone and I go, I'm going to delete that message. I don't want her to hear that. You know, she's probably got enough stress on the road. I dialed the number and it says, you have 2 unheard messages. I thought, okay, so I got to listen to the first one to get to mine, you know. And it's this man's voice apologizing for the night before. And, you know, and I was like, what the heck? And it was pretty graphic, and I was very taken back. And then I was realizing that she's seeing somebody else, you know. It was devastating. I mean, I thought we'd be married forever, you know, and I just remember, and anyone that's gone through a breakup or lost a loved one, you know the feeling. It's like just your heart, you can't sleep, you can't eat, you're just miserable. And I didn't say anything, and then I deleted my message, and then I picked her up at the airport, and I said, I want to know who this is. And she goes, what are you talking about? So she first denied it, and then she just said that she's going to be moving out and she wants a divorce. And it was like my world ended there, man. You know, the most devastating, hurtful, didn't know what I was going to do. Because now, you know, you obviously split everything up and you go your own way and life changes. And I got back into drugs. I got back into living a horrible life, horrible financial decisions. The housing market tanked. Everything that could go wrong went wrong in my life, to the point where I just didn't even want to be here anymore. And then, you know, just making an amazing comeback in life. And that's part of the story I share at schools and churches and corporations now, was that, you know, no matter how bad it is, no matter what you're going through, you know, and there's a plan, a purpose for your life. And and we could all come back from adversity.
Did you ever have a talk with Brock or anything since that happened? Like get to see him in person and any type of apology or anything from him?
No, and I don't expect a Christmas card or anything.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.